Hello, my name is Brian. Welcome to today's workshop. We are going to be doing a little bit of bookbinding. The workshop here today is going to introduce to you Japanese step binding. You can see here in this little booklet that I've already pre-done, there's a bright colored sheet, there's some yellow paper inside, and also a bright colored string that is holding the book together. So this is the binding that we will do today. The things you will require for this workshop are pencil, a long ruler, preferably about 30 cm. If you have a bone folder, you can use it. Alternatively, you can use a short 15 cm ruler. You need a pair of scissors, pen knife, preferably the thin one that you don't have to, use your hand to grab a big item. Some narrow pen knife like this, an awl. So this is a piercing tool here. And if you don't have this, the alternative is to use a thumbtack and a hammer to create the holes. What you also need are colorful threads, maybe colors of your choice, a binder clip here, and a needle with quite a big hole here. Right? The alternative also here is a shoe making needle that's curved. Of course, what you will also need are colorful sheets of paper. We will need at least 2 colors to work with for today, and also some rough pieces of paper like this. So let's get started with the workshop. So what we're going to start first is with the cover of the book. So the way that we're going to make our book today is to have a French fold. So a French fold is just basically having our A4 sheet and folding it into half so that it's you can see through in the middle. It's almost double-sided, right? So this is what we're going to do for the front cover and the back cover. So we'll put the sheet down on our table or cutting mat. Then we're going to align the edges perfectly together, something like this. And we're going to make use of our ruler or the bone folder in order to press down the edges sharply. Okay, so there we have it. We have the front cover, and then we will do the same for the back cover. So similarly, what we're going to do is to align the edges perfectly together, something like this, and we'll use the bone folder or the ruler to press down the edges neatly so that we have a nice sharp edge. So there we have the front and the back cover. So once the cover is done, what we're going to do is to prepare the sheets for the inside of the book. So you can take another color, different color from your cover, and we're going to mark out the halfway mark of the A4 sheet in order to cut it into half. So the length of the A4 is 297. So the halfway mark is approximately at 148. So what we're going to do here is to mark out 148 mm on our sheet of paper. 148. And we're going to flip around and do the same marking on the other side. 148. Here. Okay, so once we make the marking for the top and the bottom, we're going to be able to slice all the sheets of paper. So we're going to sort of stack the sheets together, maybe around 10 sheets, and then we're going to clip the sheets of paper together. So in order to not create a mark on your paper, what you can do is to get a rough sheet of paper like this and clip on the edge here so it doesn't create a mark. So the next step then is to cut the sheet of paper, and this is where you have to be careful. You want to align the ruler closely to the markings you made. Keep your fingers off the edge of the ruler so that you don't slice your finger. So then we prepare our pen knife, and here it's about being patient and cutting through the sheets of paper slowly without using too much force. So we're going to go here, starting from the top, and we'll slowly cut our way down like this. Repeating the movement multiple times until we reach the end of the paper. So how do we check? We can just flip the paper away to see, okay, yes, we have all our sheets of paper totally cut. So we're going to remove this and then stack our papers for the book together like this. So now we have the insides of the book also done. So now we're ready to start to put the book together. So we have our front cover sheets. We're going to sandwich the inside papers that we have just cut, right? So we're going to put the back cover and the front cover together like this, so that we have the orange and the yellow done like that. Then again, similarly, what we want to do is to flush the paper at the bottom. So be mindful that the part that's folded here should be on the bottom, because we're going to trim the edges. Yeah, so we're going to flush the thing at the bottom, making sure it's totally flushed on the edges. We're going to use our rough sheet of paper again to clip like this, right? And if you find that it's not neat anymore, what you want to do is also to just sort of trim off the edge really quickly. So similarly here, we're just going to trim it off just very slightly. Be careful again with your finger and the pen knife. So we're going to just cut really lightly across like this, gently shredding away the loose edges. Right, so that's done. And now my sheet of paper is totally flush. The next step here is to create the 5 holes that we will need for doing the sewing of the edges. Okay, so we'll put it down and we will measure out the distances across this, right? But before that, we want to have a distance from the edge to where we want to sew. So the measurement is about 10 mm. So we're going to make a marking for 10 mm here. So 10 mm on the top and 10 mm on the bottom. Okay, so then from here we will use the ruler to make the 5 holes along the edges. So the measurement that we have for this would be about 35 mm along the edge. Every 35 mm we will add a dot. So the first dot is at 35 mm. Then we will go to the next one, which is at 7. The next division will be 10.5 cm, and then we're going to 14. Right? And then from 14, we enter 35 mm, we will get 17.5 cm here. So then we have our 5 dots along the edge ready to be made into holes. Okay, so once we have the book contents clipped together, we are ready to make the holes after the markings have been made, right? So the first option I'm going to show you is to make use of the push pins that you may have at home, and also a little hammer, how this can be done. So you notice the push pins that I've gotten has a large plastic top on the top, right? So it's easier for you to hammer when you're handling it. So I'm just going to show you how we can do it. So the holes have been made right here, and then we're going to aim really perfectly at the dot. So being mindful of your fingers, right, so that you don't hurt yourself. So we're going to hit like this, make sure it goes through on the other side, right? And then we can check that it's removed like this, right? It's gone through on the other side. And then we're going to do this a couple more times down the thing, and then we'll repeat on the other side, okay? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this using the awl as well. So this is an awl, a sharp tool, so we often keep it with a sort of cork at the top so that it doesn't hurt anyone. So here we would aim the hole like this, press it down, and just screw it in using a bit of force. Yeah. And then you see that you find that there's a hole that's being made like this already. Yeah. And then we carry on to finish all 5 holes. Okay, and then the last one, like this. So we all have 5 holes, but you'll notice that the holes on the back are really small, so we just want to pierce them through again so that the holes are also even on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to do that the same way, maybe even pushing the tool in so that the hole is sufficiently big for what we are trying to do. Okay, so we're going to do that again, pierce, pushing it through. Okay, so the similar thing that you can do with the thumbtack or the push pins. You're just going to hold it down, just bang it through again. Yeah. We got to make sure that the holes are big enough for the thread to go through. Okay. So I'm just going to push it across so that the holes are sufficiently big. Yep. So now we have the 5 holes and we are ready to start sewing on the book. So at this stage you can probably have a seat because what we're going to do is to start sewing along the 5 holes we have just created. You will need to pick out the threads that you want. Here I have a few black, white, and the one I'm going to use is blue because it's a complementary color against the peach that I've used here. And we will have to thread the thread, of course, into the needle. So you can use ones like this, but the one I'm going to use here is a shoemaking one. A curved one, you'll realize soon why the curved one is a better version. Okay, so we are going to have a thread that's maybe around 2.5 times the length of the book. Right? About 2.5 times the length. It doesn't have to be super exact. Right? It's just something quite long enough. And then we'll use the scissors just to trim. And then we can just put the rest of the thread aside. We don't need it anymore. And we're going to thread the needle. Okay. So once we have threaded the needle, we're ready to start sewing the book along the spine. Okay. Once we have the thread threaded into the needle, we are ready to start sewing the book. Okay. We will start from the middle of the book, this hole here, threading through. So pulling it along, making sure that there's enough of a tail at the back, right here, right. Just holding on to it, and then we'll go on to the hole downwards. We're moving downwards here. We go to this. Okay, so holding on to the end so it doesn't come off, and then we'll make a loop around the spine. So we use the needle, we go around the spine, back to the same hole, right, and guiding the thread along so it doesn't get trapped. Okay, so that we have our first loop and we're going downwards now. Okay, so we go horizontally across and then we just guide the thread gently through. So we have our first horizontal line and we'll loop back again. Okay, so we'll look back at the hole. Same thing, let's try to be careful here, making sure our thread doesn't get tangled up. Okay. Okay, so just guiding it along. Okay, so we tighten it. So we have our first set here done. And now the important thing is to go over the top of the book. We're going to go back over the top of the book and go back to the first hole there on the edge. Okay, so we go to the top and cutting, piercing back in the same hole. Okay, so again similarly guiding this thread in gently so it doesn't get trapped along the way. Okay, so once we have that, we are looking for the blank spaces now. Okay, we're looking for the blank spaces and heading towards that. So from this point here, we're going to go downwards, creating that other horizontal line. Then again, guiding the thread along. Okay, then again, moving downwards towards the empty spaces. Okay, so once we have that, we loop back again to create the vertical line. Okay, so that's where we are at, and we move downwards, and the process continues, right? So we're going this way, downwards. Here we try to be careful so that the thread doesn't get trapped. Okay. Then once we're here, same thing, we loop across over again. Okay, making sure that the thread doesn't get stuck along the way, we guide it along. Okay. Okay, then we move downwards. This way. Okay, then we make another loop. Just gonna neaten this a little bit. Right? So just pull this tight. The threads are neat. So we go back again over the edge of the spine of the book. Okay. Okay, so we have that vertical line. The same thing here, we're just going to go over the edge. Okay, making sure it's tight. Okay, so similar principle, looking for the blank spaces, going downwards. Okay, so we are almost at the end, and you know that you're almost at the end because you know you are at the last blank. So we're going to go towards the last blank here. Okay, coming back to the top. Okay, so once we are done, coming back here to the top, we're going to put the thread through again one more time so that the both open ends are together. So we're going to pierce through this portion here. Yep. Piercing through, coming back again on the other side, so we have two loose ends. Okay, so one loose end here, and another loose end here. Yeah. That comes from the other side. Okay, so we have two loose ends, and here at this point we can trim the loose ends off. Okay, and make a little knot at the end, simple knot. And there you have your book. You can remove the sheets of paper, and your Japanese step bind book is ready. So there you have it. It's quite a simple binding method that I've introduced to you today, right? So you might have seen something like that from TV shows, maybe old Chinese movies or Japanese movies where you might have seen an old manual that looks like this, right? So it's a very old traditional binding method, but what we have taken here today is a contemporary spin on it by changing the colors, you know, working on different materials even if you can think of anything, and you know, playing with the color of the thread against the front cover, right? So this is something you can explore at home with very simple materials and things that you already have readily available with you, right? So you can give this a shot and attempt this at home. So one thing that we want to share about CMD is that we are very focused on not just the digital part of design that is very much in trend today, but also training your sensitivity on the craft of design, which is very important to us because for us, we think that that's fundamental, and that's also the way that you can build up, you know, your capabilities along the way for other things. And that sensitivity comes from working with the craft of design, understanding material, paper, form of the book, you know, in order to design a book well, for example. And here at CMD, you also, in a subject, explore other forms of binding, such as this one as well, and also really very simple. So there will be many opportunities to understand the craft of design on top of the many other things that you will learn. So I thank you today for joining me, and I hope to see you around very soon. Thank you.